this to you. I got to send this to you.
Send it over. We're going live on YouTube, though.
How do
People
I
want to
send
watch the cake.
How do I send this script? How do I send this now?
You know, and one idea that I do with Wiseblot, for example, is we just have one. Here, let me mute us here. We just have one like document that gets updated, so it's just one link all the time, and you just update that one document.
Well, that's what I'm going to do right now. I'm just going to share. Yeah, I'm just going to share this with you. That's what I always do. Just share it with Mike Boone and with Scott Allen. Scott, who's laid up.
What's wrong with Scott?
He's got a bad back or something. He couldn't even freaking move all week like that. Poor guy. Okay.
That sucks.
There it is. There it is. And I got you in that corner. Now, how do I?
Let me tweet a link at you while you do that.
Yeah, go ahead. Tweet a link. Tweet a link.
Rock and Robin.
How do I go full screen with this? There it is. Yeah, tweet me a link. And are we on the red carpet?
We are on YouTube, yes.
Good morning, everybody. John McLaren is going to join us today. Get your baseball questions ready, your Blue Jays questions, your why did Damaso Garcia burn his jersey questions for John McLaren. Johnny Mac.
Love it. Hey, have you seen the I can't even remember the people who made it. John Boy. I can't remember the names, but have you seen that Dave Stieb multi-part?
Yes.
Isn't that incredible?
It's brilliant. It's so brilliant. Oh. There's deep dives, there's rabbit holes, and then there's that.
And then there's a whole this
and is visually and audibly. It was the music was. I love the music.
Yeah, because it had that retro feel. But then he had that whole the back-to-back starts where he went to 2 outs in the ninth with the no, and then what were the odds on this happening?
I know. And that was brilliant. 1 in 132 million or whatever. Did you tweet the?
Oh, I'm doing it right now. I got excited about Dave Stieb there. Okay.
we're going to ask. I'm going to ask Johnny Mac about.
That's why I was thinking about him.
I was going to ask Johnny Mac about him. I was also looking at the number of players that he sent to the major leagues that when he was a minor league manager in their system. All these, he had Lloyd Moseby as an 18-year-old. He had Tony Fernandez as a 19-year-old. So watching these guys develop in the minors, being a minor league manager, right? And then coming up to the majors and rejoining these kids that you had managed, 3 years earlier, 5 or 7 years earlier.
Okay, retweet my link before Los Lobos kicks in here.
Oh, beautiful. Look at that.
Yeah, I subtweeted the
oh, good.
Photos. Look at me.
Fantastic.
All right, let me get this on the other screen.
That's okay.
I'd like to see the comments. There we are. We look good. Okay, hold on here.
Huge show today. R.I.P. Guy.
Rip Guy. Here, let me just tell there's a chat here. Let me tell people to visit us.
The Demon Blonde. Who the heck is directing? What's this?
What are you looking at?
Classic here. This is from John Horn. I like John Horn. He's a tennis. You met him. You met him at my book launch.
Okay.
He's he writes tennis and other things, but mostly tennis. Classic sports radio in Toronto is a disaster. News breaks that Guy Lafleur has died this morning. Zero talk on the 2 sports stations. The Fan is talking betting, which is all they do.
Right.
Why no talk on Lafleur? Because they can't talk about him because they don't know anything. Because they don't know anything about him.
You need to call a salty. You need to call in somebody who covered that man's career, and they're all retired. They've all been retired except are they working?
Right. Hey. He used to show, listen, I used to show up early at the games when I worked in Montreal. I used to show up early. I was so thrilled to be reporting on NHL hockey and the vaunted Montreal Canadiens that I'd get to the rink at 1 or 1:30 in the afternoon, nose around. I knew all the rink attendants and all that. I did my morning show. I lived downtown.
Right.
I'd go to the rink. Fucking Guy would be there. He'd be there at 11 in the morning or noon for a 7:30 game. Right? Eddie Palchak was the Habs trainer. Fucking Eddie had he had everything laid out for him. He was there before Eddie, for gosh sakes. He had a key to the forum. He would go he'd spend the entire day there. He smoked fucking 4 packs of cigarettes.
Not good for you.
That's another thing too. Okay. We're talking cancer, lung cancer here. How many smokers out there? How many closet smokers or, oh, I didn't know he smoked type of thing.
Well, we all knew that's one thing in the schoolyard. We all knew Guy Lafleur smoked
between periods.
Right.
He had a pack of darts in him, 2 packs in him before he even played. A lot of those guys did. There's a famous picture of Lenny Dawson in the halftime of the Super Bowl, taking a big drag off of a Marlboro Red with like a Fresca or a tab
right
next to him. Anyway, are almost
you ready to rock?
Very, 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 very exciting show today. Very exciting show today.
Every day. Okay.
How do we look? We look okay there?
I don't think we've ever looked better, to be quite honest.
I love it. All right, let's go.
All right, I do a backup recording. I just gotta wait 10 seconds because I have to close last night's toast and then give me 10 seconds, and then basically I start the show. So
was it a good show?
Yeah, it was good. Always rain jams.
Yeah. Do me a favor. When I listen to the show back, when you run the music and then I start to talk, you either drag it way down so that it's I can't even hear it on the podcast.
Well, so no, if I may,
yeah, tell me.
It's because you're taking the feed from YouTube. YouTube's doing that. My raw feed, it's beautiful. But the YouTube feed, for some reason, YouTube shuts me down because I get too quiet. But I'm not bringing it down.
Tell you what, do me a favor. We'll run it and establish it, and then just take it down on your own. Okay, like give it a few seconds, and then just take it down on your own, and then instead of me jumping in like, "Hi, everybody," it's more like, let's make it a little more conversational and a little less, So you take it down, you let it establish itself, and then take it down, and then I'll, hi guys, like that. Okay.
Okay. You ready?
Yep. Hey there, sports fans. Welcome to Hebsy on Sports, episode 281. I'm your host, Mark Hebsher, along with Toronto Mike. Glad you could join us today. Sad day in the world of sports. It seems almost every day is a sad day in the world of sports because somebody we love, somebody we respected, somebody we know, we knew, we thought we knew, we wanted to know, has passed away. Today, Guy Lafleur at age 70 from lung cancer. Drag, man. Mike Bossy last week. Lung cancer, fuck cancer. Glad you could join us today. Boy, so much to talk about. Our guest today, former Major League manager and coach, John McLaren. John spent 14 years in the BlueJays organization. He was the third base coach for 5 years. He was the one saying to the Moseby or Barfield or Bill, come on, go. Right? Turn that corner. Let's go. Third base coach for the Jays, also managed the Seattle Mariners, managed the Washington Nationals. He's going to join us today from his home in Arizona. It's like 6:30 in the morning. That's a lifer. That's a baseball lifer. So we can't wait to talk to John, talk baseball. And before we get there, the latest on the Raptors, who are staring into the abyss. Okay, let's not mince words. They're down 3-0 to the Sixers. Are the Maple Leafs going to be okay after they were throttled by the Bolts without Austin Matthews for the third straight game? And what the hell's wrong with them? Somebody, I need some information. I don't like this. I need to know. This is like being on an airplane and, you're sitting on the tarmac for 4 hours and not a word. I got to know. I don't like it. I'm worried. 3 straight games. This whole thing, let's get 65. Go 65. How about 60? 59 I'll take.
Right.
And how are the Blue Jays feeling these days? I'd say pretty good after a successful trip to Boston. I'm worried, though, they don't have enough depth because injuries can play a factor with this team, as we all know, in sports. Injuries, terrible. All that plus some sports media critiquing and more. First, let's say hi to the busiest. I'm reading this. I shouldn't be. I should be saying there's Mike. There's Toronto Mike.
You can't improvise those lines.
Busiest man. I was going to say the busiest man in media. Sort of like pound for pound, or what was it? What was James? What do they call James Brown? The hardest working man in show business. That's what they called James. That's what he called himself.
Right.
Right. Self-proclaimed.
He sweat a lot.
Yeah. Self-proclaimed hardest working man in show business. All right. Who's going to argue with the guy? Played one night stands for like 60 years.
And what a cameo! What a cameo in Rocky IV. You remember that? That was amazing.
That was fantastic.
I know.
You know what? I used his soundtrack, but I cut out his lyrics. When I cut music for Sportsline, when we had to have only instrumental tracks running underneath the highlights.
Right.
And his version of "Living in America" is fabulous, but the EP version, the house mix version, which I got a copy of, is brilliant. If you ever get a chance. Yeah, really good.
Okay, well, shout out to Rocky 4. And can't believe it, we found out later, I didn't know at the time, that the guy playing the Russian wasn't even Russian.
I know.
Swedish. Okay. So please, Hebsy, let's, if you don't mind off the top, how well did you know Guy Lafleur? I know you worked in Montreal for years.
Yeah. I didn't work in Montreal for years. I worked in Montreal for actually 1 year.
Okay.
But the year I worked there, I covered the Canadiens and the Expos. I was the first FM broadcaster to be accredited for the Montreal Canadiens and the Expos same year. We put up a big stink. We're going, hey, just because we're FM radio doesn't mean we only play music and we don't know anything about sports. So anyway, so I met Guy when I first started working there. And one of the reasons I got to know him was I would show up really early at the Montreal Forum. I had nothing else to do. And I was a huge hockey fan and I'm covering the team. So, how early can I get there? I said, well, as early as you want. You can the doors are open. You can walk around the building. You can, whatever. Okay. So, young guy, early 20s, working in Montreal, noon, game day, Leafs are in town or whoever, Islanders. I go to the Forum. Doors open. I show my pass. The guard knows me by now. Hi. And I'm wandering around. I go to the dressing room. Eddie Palchak is the head trainer. Been there for 100 years, right? And I see him. I give him a nod. Where's Guy? He's over there. And he's having another smoke. And he's chain smoking. And it's 7 hours before game time. It's 7 hours before game time.
Wow.
So I shoot the breeze with him for a while. He tapes his stick. He does this. He's in his underwear. And I would see him, quite often. Not a big talker, Guy, not a glib person, but a lot of demons, right? A lot of demons, man. Everyone knows who he is. He's expected to score every shift. He's exciting, the blonde hair, the whole deal. And and Guy had, he had issues like everyone does, maybe more than some people. We won't get into it, but he's passed away, man. He's 70 years old.
Too young.
Mike Bossy just died at the age of 65. These are our heroes. And Lafleur especially is a hero in more ways than one because he represented the entire province of Quebec and all French-speaking people when he was out there scoring goals for Le Tricolore.
Right.
The man was as beloved as any athlete in any region of any country and any sport. As beloved as Maradona was in Argentina, as beloved as Ali was worldwide, as beloved as Gretzky in Edmonton, Joe Montana in San Francisco, name a city, name a player, Guy Lafleur, Montreal, but not just Montreal, all French-speaking people, number one, Francophones for sure, but also, like, for example, the book that was written I believe by Georges Saint-Hubert about Guy Lafleur was sold as many copies in English as it did in French. Right? Like, it was one of those, like people wanted to know. It didn't matter that he was French or from Montreal. I wasn't a Montreal Canadiens fan. I wanted to know about Guy Lafleur. I think the book is called Overtime, as a matter of fact. I can see the cover of it, but book titles I'm having problems with lately because a lot of books written about certain people. But anyway, he was amazing. He was a great player. And when he made a comeback, when he retired and then made a comeback, people were like, what, are you kidding me?
Right.
Come on. We thinking Guy Lafleur flying down the ice with your hair, blonde hair flying. He was a different player, but he could still play.
Yes. He
could play for the Rangers. And
he played
and Nordique.
Right. Right. And this is my memory. So I don't remember Guy Lafleur suiting up for the Habs. I remember him as a Ranger and a Nordique. So that's
anyway, rest in peace, Guy Lafleur, 70 years of age.
And now, Mike, do we know it's cancer though? Like, I just was curious because I was looking into it at CBC and they said, oh, they haven't disclosed, but it's lung cancer.
Yeah, it's lung cancer. It's lung cancer. Okay. Yeah, the other thing too is that, like, there's only so much you reveal. Someone says, oh, they passed away. You want to know naturally, well, how did it happen? Was it an accident? Was it natural causes? Was it cancer? And in this case, it was lung cancer. It was lung cancer. 70 years old. Terrible. Let's move on. Mike, I know that the great prognosticating wizard Shaquille O'Neal predicted that the Philadelphia 76ers would sweep the Toronto Raptors out of the playoffs in the first round. I hated him for that. I hated him. Calling for a sweep, anyone calling for a sweep does a disservice to one of the teams, and you know which one. Okay? Say you're going to win the series, but saying it's a sweep is basically saying the other team sucks. They're going to get nothing from us. They're not even a worthy opponent. I don't like that. And that's for that reason alone, Toronto should play with a desperation in game 4, only reserved for teams who have enough pride and respect for each other that they'll do anything to avoid being swept, especially at home. And that's usually where it happens. You see, that's usually where it happens. Okay. You're going to get swept at home because the first 2 games were on the road. Right. And that's especially distasteful. And that's why I don't want to go to the game, even though I had tickets offered to me at a pretty reduced price. I don't want to go because I'm afraid. I'm going to stand there and watch them hang their heads and lose in 4 straight games. I don't want that to happen. And I know it's never happened in the history of the National Basketball Association. 100 and whatever, 64, 40, whatever 43. Series, 3 love. Okay. That all ended for love. No, they didn't all end for love. Sorry about that. The team that was down never came back. It's never happened. It's happened like twice in the NHL. Like the 47 Leafs in the final were down love 3. And the Islanders, I think, were down to Pittsburgh 3-0 and came back in a quarterfinal series. Whatever. It just doesn't happen.
Right.
So unless Joel Embiid falls down a fucking flight of stairs or James Harden gets food poisoning or both, it's unlikely the Sixers will lose the series. But they don't have to sweep it. They're not going to sweep it. Geez, Toronto, show some fucking pride. Pascal Siakam, supposedly you're the best player on the team. I'm sorry, man. People have been saying this, and I've been going, no. He's going to be all right. No, man, you must come through. You have to. Right? 12 points, not enough. It's not going to cut it. I understand the team is without Scotty Barnes and there's others ailing and there's a lack of depth. We've always been concerned about that, but come on. And for those Philly fans who think Embiid got his revenge by sinking that buzzer beater, what, are you kidding me? To win a game versus Kawhi's won a series. Do you not get that, Philly fans? Kawhi's won a series, beat you. And Mike, you and I both felt a certain, we felt bad for Embiid. He cried, he openly wept when Philly lost that series, when that, Kawhi shot went down. And okay, maybe karma, I don't know. And I don't hate the guy. I don't hate the guy like Kayla Gray from TSN tweeting out the other night, courtside, where's all the noise and how come nobody's yelling fuck Embiid? Yeah. I'm looking at this tweet going, that's kind of rabble rousing, isn't it? That's you're mad at the fans in Toronto. You don't think they're making enough noise. You think they should be going, fuck Embiid, and you're tweeting this out and you work for TSN on the broadcasts. You're tweeting this out courtside. I just think there's something wrong. I don't hate Embiid. I don't wish any bad. And you know what? Toronto fans have class. We don't do shit like that. You're now going to drag us down to Philadelphia's level? You're telling Santa Claus to fuck off? We're not like that. And I don't like anybody, but certainly not someone in the media, someone with influence, to tell me and to tell the fans that we need to make, more noise. What? Like get off your hands? That's a Toronto thing. I get that. But that we should all be chanting fuck Embiid? Fuck no. Well,
you're not suggesting that Kayla should be impartial. Like, you do accept that she's allowed to be a homer.
No. Being allowed, look, saying the fans are sitting on their hands, they should make more noise. The energy here isn't much. No, that's what I want to. That's what I'm interested in. I'm not at the game. So I want to get some idea of what the feeling's like. What's the atmosphere like in the arena? If she's saying they're sitting on their hands, they should be making more noise. That's fine. But to say, how come, like, where's the fuck Embiid chance? Just to even suggest that. Well, what's with Toronto fans? They can't even start a fuck Embiid chance? Like, no.
Well, remember, Masai set the tone when he said fuck Brooklyn.
That's right. I got it. That's fine. That's different. That's fuck Brooklyn, meaning that, but this Embiid, like, what did Embiid do wrong? Like, why is he public enemy number 1? Like, I think he's okay. He's not going, Toronto's a shit city. Fuck all of you. Fuck Drake. He's not being like that. Not at all. So why do we have to go fuck Embiid? Are we like that? No, we're not. All right. And if the Raptors want to exact a measure of revenge, then don't blow a 17-point lead at home like you did on Wednesday. Inexcusable. And don't miss free throws. You can miss a couple of free throws, but for fuck's sakes, How many times have you stood at the free throw line in your life and knocked those down and thought of yourself, okay, championship, big game here, knock these free throws down and we win a playoff game? Did they ever do that? Did who was it? Was it Precious Achiuwa?
It was the
Precious
Achiuwa
ever? Did he ever stand at the free throw line going, here's Precious Achiuwa, chance to win it, playoff game?
Right.
He must have.
So
does Nick Nurse make every Raptor player shoot 100 free throws a day? Like, come on. The guy's a 61% free throw shooter. No wonder they're fouling him. Of course, Doc Rivers is a terrible coach. He's like, all he has to do is say, just foul Achiuwa or Siakam. Or, the Raptors are not a good free throw shooting team. That's going to kill you in a game like that. Embiid knocks everyone down. What does he shoot? 14 out of 16?
When Precious missed those 2 shots, I got to say, I was thinking about the comment I made to you that we should have just go for another lottery pick. Get another.
No, not now. We're too deep into that, Mike. Don't say that now.
I'm just sharing with you.
Don't say that. I know.
So, I love to hear the Raptors. I mean, as I tweeted yesterday, I know you saw the tweet because I tagged you in it, but it is easier to deal with this kind of disappointment when you have such fresh memories of a championship parade. Like, it really does ease the pain.
Okay. You're right. But it's funny because with basketball, you just like, I sit down, I watch the whole game. I don't have time sometimes to go, that play, 3 plays ago when he missed that bank shot, they should have gotten that offensive rebound. The game's just moving so fast that you don't have time to remember these things. It's crazy. So I don't know. I need a bit of a rest from the Raptors because it's up and down the court crazy. Make that shot. What the hell's the matter with you? How do you miss that shot? That's not a foul. I'm yelling at the referees a lot. Been yelling at umpires, yelling at hockey refs. It's not a healthy thing. Not a healthy thing. All right. Elsewhere. Hey, did you hear what happened with the Memphis Grizzlies? Here's the story. They're down 26 points last night to Minnesota in Minnesota. Okay. Down 26. The series is tied 1-1. Minnesota fans are going nuts. They come back from 26 down to win. 26 down. Everyone in every sport is going, it's never over.
Wow.
It's just never, ever over. It's crazy. So they're up 2-1 in that series. Dylan Brooks of Mississauga hit a couple of big shots down the stretch. John Morant had a triple-double. Good, great stuff. I love it. I think Memphis is a great town. I think they deserve that too. Elsewhere, Golden State up 3-0 in their series on Denver. They win by 5 last night. Dallas ties their series with Utah at 1 game apiece, an 8-point victory. And tonight, Miami taking on Atlanta up 2-0. Milwaukee visits Chicago. That series is 1-1. And out west, Phoenix in New Orleans. I guess that would be down south, not out west, in New Orleans. That series tied 1-1. Celtics and Nets go Saturday. Boston up 2-0. Boston looking really, really good. We're going to get to the Leafs in a while, but I want to talk to our and the Jays too. I want to introduce our guest first here because he's on board. It's like 3:15 in the morning where he is today. I can't believe he's actually up.
Is that right?
Our guest today spent 14 years in the Toronto BlueJays organization. He was a minor league manager, major league coach, also coached and managed the Seattle Mariners, Washington Nationals, spent time with the Phillies, Rays, A's, Reds. He was a major league coach and manager for 31 years. Wow. I first met him, I think we were both in our 20s at the Cecil Engelbert Complex in Dunedin, Florida. Let's say hi to John McLaren joining us from Arizona today. Johnny Mac, how are you?
How you doing, Mark?
I'm doing great. Great to talk to you after so many years.
Long time, really has. Those bring back great memories. I drove by there last year, and you wouldn't recognize that complex for what it was and what it is now. And things, have changed over the years, but it's still Jays baseball. There's still a lot of excitement. And before we go any further, I just want to say I want my prayers and best wishes with Buck Martinez. He's a great friend, and I'm very optimistic. Things are going to work out, and we need to get Buck back on the broadcast and do what he does best.
Well, I know he's getting the best care possible, and we're all wishing for that too. Yeah, it's just been, Man, your people, friends and contemporaries are getting sick and passing away, and you really have to value life, now more than we ever thought about it. John, what are you up to these days?
Well, I the last time I coached was with the Phillies in 2017. 2018, I did the national team from China, which I had done 2 World Baseball Classics, and it was a real challenge. Garth Orge helped me with it. Larry Hardy, who was one of our instructors with the Toronto BlueJays, and I really enjoyed that, and that kind of ran its course. And now I'm with the World Baseball Softball Confederation. What we do is we're putting videos together to help coaches coach. To put it bluntly, a lot of guys mean well. They want to help, they want to coach, but they're really not. They don't know the finer things about baseball. So we're trying to put videos together, catching, hitting, pitching, where they can look at this, go on the field, have a workout and plan, and try to teach the young kids in a proper way. And this is a pretty big international group. And the last 2 summers, I've actually been in Texas, and I did the Texas Collegiate League. It was really neat. Every day I follow all the players we had: University of Arkansas, University of Texas, Texas A&M. So it's given me something to do. I actually went to Houston and saw a big tournament, and saw some of my guys for the last 2 years. And I play a lot of golf, and
I love it.
I try to, we have a lot of Canadians at my golf course. And
where is that, John?
It's in Peoria, Arizona, right outside of Phoenix. And we have one really neat guy. His name's Dave Inkpen, and he played in the old World Hockey Association. And I told him that, I really got interested in the Houston Aeros when they first started playing. And let me backtrack. My first roommate, God bless him, he's not with us anymore. My very first roommate when I signed out of high school with the Houston Astros was Clark Gillies.
Come on.
Yeah. And Clark was a catcher like myself. Bobby Bourne played in the minor leagues with us. And Pat Gillick, we could probably talk about Pat Gillick here as we go, but Pat Gillick loved dual athletes. And in fact, I was managing Medicine Hat he was either 78 or 80. And I get a call, and he says, John, Bobby Prentice is getting ready to sign a junior hockey player. He's a little crude. You're going to have to be patient with him, but we think he's got a lot of potential. And Pat Gillick calls back, and he said, Wayne Gretzky's mother won't let him sign, so he's going to stick with hockey. And that's a true story. And I've seen him made comments a couple times, like he says, I really wanted to play some baseball, but mom said I should stick to hockey. So we can verify that moms know best.
So we can verify that Phyllis Gretzky made the correct decision. Not that Wayne, listen, John, you managed kids, like you managed Lloyd Moseby when he was fresh out of high school.
Great memories.
Tell me about the feeling of teaching a kid, because you're a natural teacher. And then years later, seeing that fruit, seeing it come to fruition, and you're on the same field as that kid who you and Moseby. He was 18, you were what, 26, and you were his manager?
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, when Lloyd first joined us, he couldn't throw he played first base a little bit in high school, and he was such a great athlete. He was out of position. So, we knew he had to be an athlete. Be an outfielder, because he was a great athlete. So we started him off in left field. He could not throw the ball. He could not throw the ball from left field to the cutoff man. That's a true story. His arm, he had no technique. And then to see him in the major leagues, a Gold Glove center fielder, have an above average arm, it was incredible. And that's one thing that Lou Piniella always told me. He says, John, I need you because you know what it's like to project. You've you've been involved with development, and you know how kids are real green, and they just start putting it together. And I've been on the major league level for 35 years, and I haven't seen that progression like you have. And I need you to help me to be patient and guide me and whatever. And so it was a pretty good combination. Young kids first breaking in. I mean, we used to break all our starters in as relief pitchers. I mean, Jimmy Key, I think Stieb. I mean, they all broke in as relief pitchers. And what this did was it gave them a chance to get their feet on the ground. They weren't overwhelmed like, I got this start, and, there's going to be 33,000 Jays fans at Exhibition Stadium. And, you bring them in a blowout game, a soft landing, just let them, kind of ease into the moment. And that's a big difference when you go from single deck stadiums to triple deck stadiums and so forth in the big leagues. It's sometimes they got to go down 2 or 3 times. And, I keep in touch with Jesse Barfield. His son is going to be a general manager in the big leagues. He runs the minor leagues for the Arizona Diamondbacks now, Josh. Mm-hmm. And when he was on our first team ever in Utica, New York in '77. And he's this tall, slender kid. And the story on Jesse Barfield, we saw him one game, drafted him in the 9th round. We saw him one game. He had 2 doubles off the pitcher that Al Lamacchia and Bobby Maddock went to see. Bill Gullickson, who was the #1 draft pick of the Montreal Expos. If he doesn't have this afternoon, we probably don't draft this kid, but we drafted him on one game. These 2 guys saw him. And that was the scouts that we had with Toronto, Bobby Maddock and Al Lamacchia, Pat Gillick's leadership. I start with, it was such a family, Peter Hardy, Peter Whittington, Gord Ash, Elliot Wally. I mean, and then we had Bob Engel and Tim Wilkin as scouting directors. We had such a unbelievable structure that was organized. They had a game plan, 6-month plan, 1-year plan, 3-year plan, 5-year plan. Pat Gillick was the most organized guy I've ever worked with. And
so Johnny, let me interrupt for a second. Let's back up here. So you spend all this, you're drafted by Houston as a player around the Houston area. I'm looking at your thing. You're in Covington, Virginia when you're 18. You're in Columbus, Georgia when you're 19, 20, 21, 22. Sumter, South Carolina, Cocoa, Florida, Des Moines, Iowa, Dubuque, Iowa, Memphis, Tennessee. And at the age of 24, that's it for your career. You're not going to make the major leagues. And you become a manager at the age of 26. Medicine Hat, Utica, Medicine Hat, Kinston, North Carolina, Knoxville, Tennessee. Matt, like you were from the beginning in that organization. You saw, and you just explained that. I think it's wonderful. But my question is this: did you want to become a manager, or were you sort of forced to? Oh, I guess I should manage. Like, how did you become? Like, you spent how many summers with kids that had never had no professional experience whatsoever? You had to be like their father, their uncle, their teacher, their counselor. What was that like?
It was awesome. I also did a lot of international routes. I went to Colombia 2 years, and I went to Venezuela 7. And
you managed in Venezuela for 7 years?
I coached and managed in Venezuela for 7 years. I did.
Wow.
I loved it. It was the best times in my baseball career. And I fell in love with international baseball. In 1977, we're going to instructional league at Grant Field in Dunedin.
I love that place, man. I love that place.
I still do. I love going by there. And we split a team with Cleveland. We didn't have enough players for one team, so we split a team. And Pat Gillick called the clubhouse, and we're in the office, and Bobby Maddock is asking me questions that Pat's asking him. He says, he's going where? John, do you have a passport? I said, no. No, Pat. Go get one right now. Leave right now to go to get an application for a passport. I ended up being the pitching coach for the national team from Canada in 1977. John Har was the manager from Vancouver. And Wayne Norton was one of our coaches. That's where I first met Wayne Norton, became great friends. And with me being coach, we were going to Cuba. That's why Pat was sending me to get an advance report on Cuba in case relations ever opened up.
Wow.
Anyway, the Cuban trip was called off. We ended up going to San Salvador and Costa Rica, and then the tournament was in Nicaragua. And I fell in love with international baseball. And one of the big guys in our organization was Epi Guerrero. I
loved Epi.
Epi was so responsible for Tony Fernandez, George Bell, all of these guys. Those were his. I mean, you talking about somebody that was a daddy to players. That was Epi.
Well, and also his wife too. I was down at their complex,
yeah.
And they made sure these kids were fed. They brought them in off the streets. These kids had never had a baseball glove on. Some of them, they used like milk cartons. It was wonderful to see that development of baseball. I can see how you can fall in love with the development of baseball, how you can just, see like planting a seed and watching it grow.
Mark, unless you've been there, and you, like you said, you've been there, unless you've been there, you don't know what the quality of life these kids are coming from. And the poverty is extreme. There's no way off the island unless you play baseball. That's why most of them quit school. And I applaud MLB trying to keep these kids in school and let them train baseball, but also get an education.
Right.
And the first thing I used to try to do is to find out if they could read or write. That was step one. And my experience with Latin players, they're very sensitive people. They're very aggressive. They love to play. I mean, their passion is over the top. And this Tatis kid for San Diego, I played with his grandfather. You talk about those teams in Columbus in 1971. I played with his grandfather. You never hear about his grandfather.
Really?
Never hear about his grandfather. And his grandfather couldn't hit a lick. And these two, his son, Fernando, was a big power hitter with the Cardinals. And of course, this kid with San Diego he's probably, when he's healthy, he's the best player in the game. And
better than Vladdy Jr.?
Probably not. No, I misspoke. I misspoke. I mean, to see Guerrero when he was a kid running around in uniform with the old man, to see Prince Fielder. I mean, Cecil went 3 years with me to Venezuela, and Prince was right there with him, and he was like a little Hulk. And one of our coaches, Rocket Wheeler, his son, Marty, was a little bitty kid. Well, these two would watch Rocky every night. In the airport, we're getting ready to catch a plane, and here's Prince knocking him down, like Rocky, and he'd jump right back. Rocket's kid would jump right back up to be, because he was a tough kid. But I can remember Prince hitting home runs in the Kingdom, and he's 12 years old. I mean, it's just Cecil Fielder. When I think of Cecil Fielder and Fred McGriff and Tony Fernandez, my heart, it melts, because these guys are my guys. And, Tony came to my house 2 years before he died. And It's a tragic story. I'm sure you're well aware he had a kidney problem. Yeah. And so my wife and I are at the dinner table, and I'm talking to Tony, trying to tell him to get a kidney. And he always said, Johnny Mac, God has a plan for me. And I said, Tony, why do you think God put good doctors on earth? Is to help people when they're in need, like yourself, And he just smiled. He says, Johnny Mac, everything's fine. I'm in God's hands. And so that was it. But Tony was like a son to me. I can remember him and a kid named Benji Perez would ride bikes to the ballpark in Kinston, North Carolina. And one of them would drive and the other one would be on the handlebars. And that's how those kids got around. And, I'll look back and think about some of the players. Jay Schrader ended up being a Super Bowl quarterback for the Washington Redskins. He was our number one draft pick. And we always drafted dual athletes. I mean, we always, Quinlan, Scott Burrell, basketball NBA.
Right.
Danny Ainge. I mean,
of course, Danny Ainge.
I would tell you trivia. You might.
Wait. Hang on, John. Hang on. We have to back up a little bit here. First of all, I need to introduce you to my sidekick here, Toronto Mike. My co-host, Toronto Mike, a huge baseball fan. Okay, chomping at the bit to talk to you, ask questions here. So let's make the introduction.
How you doing, Mike?
Nice to meet you, Johnny Mac. What a pleasure.
When I saw that you guys invited me, a lot of thoughts and memories went through my mind. Going up the ladder with the BlueJays and the love affair that the fans have with the team over all these years. It was such a fabulous run. And, I see now they're going to renovate Rogers Center. It's a sky.
It looks pretty good.
It's a sky dome for me. I got to be honest with you. It's
sky dome to me too. John.
Yeah, Mike was there the other day.
Yeah, I was there the other day. That's right. I have so many questions, my goodness. But firstly, fresh in my mind, I just watched a YouTube documentary that kind of reimagines or revisits the esteemed career of Dave Stieb. Okay, so my first question for you, as a man who had the best seat in the house, and man, why isn't Dave Stieb even talked about as a Hall of Fame contender? Like, why isn't this man in the Hall of Fame?
One of the most dominant pitchers I've ever seen. And I was with Randy Johnson for many, many years in Seattle. And it was the same type of domination. Randy threw harder, and he had a little fear factor Dave didn't have. But I'm sure y'all know the story. We drafted him from Southern Illinois. He wants to hit. We know he can't hit. We send him to Dunedin. I believe Dennis Minke's his manager. Pat Gillick says, let him DH 3 times a week. After hitting 110, he's ready to go become a pitcher. I'm sitting there. Baltimore, Traber hits a hand job and McGriff breaks the wrong way and it goes in there. Ground ball in Cleveland, right at the second baseman, Liriano. The ball hits a rock and bounces over his head.
That was the worst. That was the worst.
Bounce caught on video. Yeah.
And finally he gets it in Cleveland. Junior Felix catches the final out. And guys, do you know the story about him grabbing himself?
No. Do you know that one, Mike?
Absolutely.
No, I got to hear this story.
Okay. Well, he always used to grab his cup to the extreme. Do y'all remember that?
Yes.
Oh,
yeah.
So I'm just walking through the clubhouse and Dave liked me. We got along great. And I just sat down next to him. I said, Dave, I've known you a long time. I respect you. You're a great pitcher. I said, you do something very peculiar. And if I'm entering an area that's too private, just tell me enough's enough. And that's it. And I said, you grab your cup all the time. So he went over to his locker and he grabbed his cup. And inside his cup, he had the names of his children and his wife. And the sports psychologist told him, he says, when you're out of the moment, when you feel like you're rushing, you're losing it a little bit, grab your cup and your family's right there with you. More or less, that was the gist of the conversation. I understood then. When he started grabbing his cup, I said, grab it. That's great. You got your whole team behind you. Go for it, But, there was articles written in the Globe and Mail and the Toronto Star and about what's wrong with, does he have jock itch or whatever. Wow. But I was a huge Dave Stieb fan. He was such a great athlete. I will say this about Dave. If he could do his career over again, a rerun, which we never can do, but I think he would try to be not such a perfectionist. And that's what he was. He was a total perfectionist.
Yep.
He wanted to strike out 15. He didn't want to walk anybody, didn't want to give up any hits. And when they gave up a run, and he would do some stuff, like throw his hands up at George Bell. Why didn't you catch that ball? That happened in Milwaukee one day. It didn't go real well. George comes in there. He says, if you ever show me up on the field, I will go from left field to the mound and you will be on the ground. Understand what I'm telling you? And, George Bell is one of my all-time greats. I if I saw him right now, I'd go up and hug him and we'd just start laughing. I saw him break in 1978 with the Phillies in the Pioneer League. Him and Ryan Sandberg were in the rookie team of the Phillies. And to see him turn into the premier power hitter, to see Jesse Barfield win the American League home run contest, have the best arm probably in the American League or baseball at that time. That was what was so gratifying, to see the trials and tribulations of injuries with George Bell, getting hit in the eye, having a knee operation. It's just incredible. We had a couple drafts that we were debating on who we were going to take, and we passed on Dwight Gooden and Roger Clemens back-to-back years, I think. Can you imagine?
Really?
I know we took Matt Stark one year, a catcher.
Yeah, that I remember. Hey, so wait, John. So you were in the room with all these guys. You were the scouts and everything. Your input was important to Pat Gillick and all, as far as drafting players or scouting players.
The first 4 years, I scouted. The first 2 years, I scouted Southern California, and then the next 2 years, 79, 80, I scouted Texas. And then I would manage a rookie team in the summer. So I was in the very first draft, and we took Tom Goffney. Y'all remember?
Tom Goffner, the shortstop, right?
Yeah.
Western New York or Pennsylvania?
Dayton, Ohio.
Sorry, Midwest.
Dayton, Ohio. And he wasn't the next guy on the board. And it just so happens that Bobby Maddock loved him, and we end up taking him. And the next guy on the board was Dave Henderson.
Ooh, he was pretty good.
He was a pretty good player. And the guy after that, there was two of them ahead of him. The other guy was Kevin Bass. So he
was also a good player.
Yeah, but we had some outfielders. We depended for Epi. First and third, we thought we could get from the States, and we thought shortstop, second base, and outfielders would always be taken care of in our Latin countries. So, and we always tried to sign one unsignable a year. It's like having 2 number 1 draft picks. So we would, you remember Billy Cannon, the Heisman Trophy winner from
LSU? Sure do.
Well, we went to his house, and we were really high on this kid. He was a football player. I grew up in Houston, so Billy Cannon was one of my heroes. So I'm going with Pat Gillick, Alamacchia, into Billy Cannon's house.
Wow.
And so as soon as you walk in the front door, Mark, you can shake the Heisman Trophy. I mean, as soon as you walk in, it's
the Heisman Trophy is right there, huh?
Right there. And I'm
That's
thinking,
cool.
Oh my God. So we sit down, and boy, Billy Sr. was a conniver. He did all the talking. He wanted a contract like Bud Adams gave him with the Houston Oilers. He wanted incentives. He wanted a new Lincoln Continental like he got for Billy Jr. and bye. And long story short, the day of the draft, they sent out a fax that they were not going to sign. He was going to Texas A&M to play football. And Billy Sr. said, after Billy signed his contract, I never want him to have to work again. And that was a red flag for me and the other people in the room.
For sure.
So who drafts Billy Cannon Jr. the first year? Well, of course, George Steinbrenner and the Yankees. And so everybody's like, what happened? He said he wasn't going to sign. I don't know if we were going to draft him or not, but he was definitely in the conversation. And so the same day of the draft, there was such an uproar. They disallowed the draft. They put him in a special draft with 6 teams. We were one of the 6, but we didn't do it. He ends up not signing. He went to Texas A&M, was a number 1 draft pick of the Dallas Cowboys. Yep. Got hurt and really never played again. So that
was a good decision.
So anyway,
yeah. Hey, listen, Mike's got a piece of tape here. We had your friend Garth Orjon not too long ago.
Love Garth,
and we do too. And Garth was very frank about a couple of situations, and one of them was the '87 season down the stretch, 7 losses in a row, and Mike, let's run this clip and we'll get John to comment on it.
Jimmy Williams was our manager, and he was panicked more than anybody. It's just like the coaching staff was on edge. Pat Gillick was on edge.
Well, what do you mean when you say that Jimmy was only, it's 86. So that was Jimmy's second year as the manager. When you say he was panicked, are you suggesting that, for example, if Bobby Cox was managing that team, would there have been that level of panic?
I don't think so. I remember in 85, we went in to Boston and we had a chance to end the season. And we went into Boston. I want to say we lost maybe 3 or 4 in a row in Boston before we came back to Toronto. And I remember the last day we lost, and everybody's in the clubhouse, and everybody was really down. Down. And Bobby Cox came in and turned on the music and smiling and laughing, said, "Let's go." And you could see this cloud, just dissipate, in our clubhouse. And we went back and, we ended up winning our division. So it's just like, it's just the opposite with Jimmy. It was just a very, very tough time. And I like Jimmy. It's not like I thought Jimmy was a bad manager, just a tough situation for everybody.
All right, rebuttal, John McLaren. Johnny?
We didn't have Tony Fernandez. We had Manny Lee at shortstop. He was hurt. We didn't have Ernie Witt catching. We had Greg Myers catching. People don't realize we lost to Milwaukee, I think, 3 or 4 games before we lost to Detroit, and we just didn't hit. The guys were trying to hit 3-run homers with nobody on base.
Why? But why? Why were they? Why were they trying to hit 3-run homers? Why was Bell?
They were trying too hard. Trying to do too much. And we ran into some good pitching too. We always had trouble with Frank Tanana. Jack Morris was always a beast against us. And, when you got to win or lose, there is tension, but I didn't see it quite like Garth saw it. I just thought we were trying so hard and we were running into good pitching. And a little sidebar to that season is that we played a balanced schedule, and people don't even remember this, and it doesn't make any difference because we didn't make it. But Minnesota was so happy we got eliminated because Minnesota never beat us that year. We were 12-0 against Minnesota. And Kirby Puckett says, "Man, when you guys lost, man, I hate to tell you, but we were celebrating. We couldn't beat you guys." They ended up beating Detroit in winning the World Series. But back, Tony Fernandez was the guy. He was our igniter. And I tried to do something in Toronto the last day against Milwaukee before going on the road. I could tell we were a little flat. I could tell we were trying too hard. So I went up to Tony Fernandez. I said, "Tony," and I already talked to Jimmy Williams. I said, "Tony, would you take the lineup out to home plate and get the fans into it?" And for whatever reason, he didn't want to do it. And I just felt like if maybe he could go out there and the fans would just go crazy seeing number 1 taking that lineup card to home plate, maybe it could surge us or whatever, but it just didn't happen or anything. But every game that we had in Detroit was 1 run. We either lost 2-1 or 1-0. And the one thing that sticks out in my mind, which nobody cares about, it was the final Sunday. I'm getting ready to go coach third base, and an octopus comes from the top deck and almost hits me in the head. It almost hit me in the head, Mark.
Did you know the significance of the octopus at the time, John?
Well, I was told, that was a tradition with the Red Wings, and Gordie Howe and all this kind of stuff. But this octopus is right at my feet and it almost plunked me. And now I go out to coach third, and it was a great series. There was a lot of tension. There was not any hitting on either team. And it was just a knockdown, drag out pitchers duel for 3 games. And we came up short, and it was, we had a good team. I just, you look back and you say, what if? Well, what ifs don't win ball games, but not having Ernie Witt to call the fingers, that hurt us too. Ernie was a big part of our team. And, when you take two guys out like that, it hurt us. It hurt us.
Now, the following season, John, was the controversy. Bell ends up winning the American League MVP that year, 87, even though he was horrible down the stretch, as most of the guys were. They couldn't hit, like you said. And then in spring training of 88, we're down there. And now suddenly, I guess, the combination of losing 7 in a row and blowing it the previous year, and the fact that Bell is upset that he doesn't want to be a DH now, causes all kinds of problems, which unfortunately really took away from the team that spring, don't you think?
Well, I think there's a story before this happens.
Okay.
Pat Gillick, Jimmy Williams, the Hendricks brothers, who were George's agents, they all meet, and George is up for a contract, and George's, I think his exact word, "Give me the glue, and I'll do whatever you want me to do." And if I've got this story right, Jimmy Williams had left the meeting. No, give me the cake. Give me the cake, and I'll do whatever you want to do. Jimmy Williams had left the meeting because we had a meeting that fall again in Houston, and I was there with the Hendricks brothers. I'll get into that, but they give George a 3 or 4 year contract. Paul Beeston, Pat Gillick, they're in Dominican, and they think everything's resolved because he got a nice 3 year contract. Well, if I got this right, they were $50,000 or $60,000 short of what he was asking.
Right.
But the Hendricks brothers agreed to this contract. Well, we know George thinks a little different than us sometimes. In his mind, he didn't get his money. So now we show up, and we have a strong feeling that he's not going to DH the first game in spring training at Grant Field. So there was a plan in place. Okay, if he doesn't show up, John, you manage the club. Jimmy's going to go into the clubhouse and officially tell George he's suspended. And this is exactly how it played out.
Oh, I was there. I was there when he arrived. He was the last guy to arrive at camp, right?
Exactly how it played out. So, a couple of days go by, and we get him back out there. And what happens? We open up in Kansas City. I think he hit 3 home runs off Saberhagen.
He did.
Couple doubles. So I'm sitting there and I'm telling John Sullivan, say, thank God for this start. Everything's cool. I said, George, this is great, man. He says, well, I might be out there tomorrow. And I'm my ears are saying, what did I just hear? He told me, so I won't be out there tomorrow. I'm not going to do this again. And what the organization was trying to do was trying to preserve George's legs. We had young outfielders that were coming. The organization was real high on Sil Camposano. They thought he was a pure center fielder. We could put Lloyd in left field. We still had Bake in right field. We were more athletic. We had more speed, and we had George, who was a pure hitter. He could prolong his career by doing this. Well, George didn't think along those lines. Sil Camposano wasn't the guy we thought he was going to be, of course. And he struggled mightily. And, it was something we had to sort out. And eventually we did, but 88 was, it wasn't a real great year or anything. And then we started 89 and started off poorly, and Jimmy got let go and Cito took over.
Were you there when Damaso Garcia lit his uniform on fire in Oakland?
Yes.
What happened there?
I know he poured alcohol on it, and I think he thought he was disrespected. I think this has been so long, I even thought about this. I think that he went from hitting first to ninth.
Yes, that's right. He'd been leading off all year.
And, let me tell you what, Damaso was a very intelligent man. I mean, he was a very intelligent man. And things got a little sour in spring training. And I remember we had our dinner at the Dunedin Commerce Chamber of Commerce every year. It was a big event, and the only Latin that showed up was Tony Fernandez. The rest of them went out to eat by themselves. George Bell, Juan Beniquez, these guys went out, and they were rebelling for what reason? I don't even remember what it was all about, but Damaso was with them and everything. And so we had challenges there early. These guys loved Jimmy Williams when he was a coach, and now he's a manager. There was things that the organization, we had meetings. We were a well-organized group, and these were organizational decisions that Jimmy had to follow through with, and he was the bad guy. Jimmy Williams is the smartest baseball man I have ever been around. I want to tell you that right now. I said that in front of Lou Piniella, and Lou Pinella's face was like, "What about me?" And I didn't say manager. I said baseball mind, as far as teaching fundamentals, game situations. Jimmy Williams used to give me a sign 4 pitches ahead of time. I'd look in the dugout, and if you can see my arm, this would be 1 ball, this would be 2 ball, this is 3 ball, this is 1 strike, this is 2 strike.
Okay.
So he would go 1-1, hit and run. First pitch, nothing happened. Second pitch, nothing happened. I'd look in, and he wouldn't even be looking at me. He wouldn't be flashing signs. I'd put the hit and run on. Base hit. As soon as the ball was hit to left field, I'd look in there, and he'd give me the green light. And I never looked in there. So we had a nice system in place giving signs. But Jimmy was a great teacher. He helped Damaso Garcia in infield. He helped Tony Fernandez. And when he became manager, and I can speak from my own personal, what I went through, is you're a good guy when you're a coach. Everybody likes you, but when you have got to make a lineup card, things change. Right. When you take guys that are normally hitting 4th and you put them 6th because you got somebody else, you move Cecil Fielder up, Damaso's struggling, you got Tony Fernandez, you move him up, you put him 9th, you got hurt feelings. And this is what you deal through. And this is why we got sports psychiatrists today and whatnot. But we had a great group of guys, and there's a lot of things that didn't happen that maybe could have changed things. But Jimmy Williams proved he was a good manager. He managed some good teams in Boston and Houston. And his 2 sons are managing AA and AAA for Tampa Bay and the Philadelphia Phillies.
Fabulous. John, and you know this because I spent a lot of time with you and John Sullivan and Al Widmar and Jimmy Williams,
yes.
And even before that when Jimmy was coaching. And you're right, man, when he was the coach, everyone respected Jimmy. He was a brilliant baseball mind, but when he became the manager, and when you say, I want to wrap this up in a couple seconds, but I want to have you back because you're such a great storyteller and there's so much we haven't gotten to, but I need you to explain to me and Mike and our listeners that when the organization says this is the way it's going to be, the manager in a lot of cases really has no choice. So in the case of Charlie Montoyo this year and last year, yes, with Shapiro, with Atkins, when he's making these moves, can we safely say this isn't his decision, it's the organization's?
I'm not there, so I can't speak. Number one, I'm a huge Charlie fan. He was our AA manager the 3 years I was in Tampa Bay. I always liked this guy. He was always talking baseball. He was a good man, and I'm pulling for him big time.
Is he a good in-game manager as far
absolutely.
As you're concerned?
He knows the game. He knows the game.
All right. So he can make the moves during the game. This is what concerns most BlueJay fans and me is that, but again, over 162 games, every move he makes isn't going to turn out successfully. But of course, naturally, when, he doesn't play this guy or he doesn't bunt there or whatever the case is, we're on his case. But you're comfortable with him.
I don't know Toronto's philosophy today. I mean,
I don't either. I don't know what their philosophy is.
I'm not, and I don't know how they do pitching. I don't know if they have an iPad over there.
They do.
What I'm reading now is, when I see starters, I mean, if you look at the history of pitchers from the 50s to 60s, I used to go 8 innings, 7 innings, 6, 5. I mean, this is what's going on in the game. It's a game of matchups. And Boone did it. Boone did it against Cabrera yesterday, when he walked him, because the matchup, he did the right thing. That's what you're supposed to do. I mean, you look, everybody's saying, oh, I came to the game to see him get his 3,000 hit. Take that away. You're trying to win the game. But those moves he's making are moves that the analytic team wants you to make, how you use your pitching. You want your starter to go so far. You look at guys like Randy Johnson and my guy, Roger Clemens. I mean, I'm a huge Roger Clemens fan. I mean, big time. And those guys didn't want to come out of the game. They do not want to come out of the game. And today they're going 5 and dive, and they're going 5 in the third, and then the bullpen matches up. They don't want them to see the lineup after 3 times or whatever their philosophy is. But you got some of these guys that are animals. Nolan Ryan. You think take Nolan Ryan out of the game? He's throwing a 1-hitter, and you got 114 pitches. He threw 275 one game and went 14 innings. Those days are over with. I get it.
Well, so the Kershaw thing the other day is perfect. The guy's throwing a perfect game. Why are you going to take him out of the game? Why would you take him out? Because the fans are there to see a perfect game, which is a rare occurrence.
Very rare.
My friends ask me, John, what would you do in that situation? I would go up to him. I say, how are you doing? And I'm watching him. My pitcher coach is watching him. His delivery's good. He's not laboring. The ball's not up. And I would say, okay, let's take this batter by batter. I'm going to have the bullpen ready. You go out and start the 8th inning. They get a hit. You're gone right then. That's it. You get the first guy out. Pitchings are low. Go to get the second guy. We're going to go batter by batter. He gets him out in the 8th inning. We're going to have the same conversation. All right, you're at 96 pitches. How do you feel? Oh, I'm getting a little tired. You're done. That's the end of the conversation.
Right.
But I'm going to give that pitcher. I understand it's early in the season. Now, he went 75 in a simulated game before he went the 80. Your natural progression is 15. So you go from 75 to 90 on a natural progression. You add 15 pitches to your next start. So if he'd have pitched that next inning, he probably would have been at 95 pitches. Now you got a real challenge. Do you want him to go that extra few pitches? I'm going to let him go. That's all I can say. I'm going to let him go. He tells me he can go, and what my pitching coach and I are seeing. Now, the front office might have a telephone and says, get him out of the game now, and that's a different story.
I can picture the phone. I can see it. It's kind of like, what's Charlie doing? He's disappeared from view because the camera's always on him. It's like he's taking a phone call, and it's Ross Atkins going, get him out of there.
Well, you wouldn't have to worry about this Lou Piniella because he'd have pulled the phone receiver off the wall if we had never had the conversation. Never had the conversation.
Oh, John, listen, John, can you come back? Can you come back and tell more stories and talk more baseball with us?
Yeah, I didn't even talk about Pat Gillick or Lou Piniella, and there's some great stories there between those two.
Bring them back, Hebsy.
You're coming. We're penciling you in. It's a long baseball season. Okay, as long as you don't mind getting up early there in Arizona, we would love to have you again.
I'd already been out the door when I started talking to you. I get up at 5:45 for my coffee with my guys. So
beautiful.
I enjoyed it, guys. Best of luck to the Jays. Like I said, I'm pulling for them. My heart. That's the first team that I work for on the other side of the ledger, and BlueJays are family with me. Paul Beeston, Peter Hardy, Peter Riddington, Pat Gillick. I love those guys and what they put in place for what they have today.
Beautiful. John McLaren, thanks for joining us. We'll talk again soon. It was great.
Enjoyed it. Thanks, guys.
All right.
Have a great one. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Yeah, and there you go. And Johnny's team, the Blue Jays, got a much-needed 8+ innings out of Kevin Gausman yesterday. I was going to mention that too, because Gausman, it was like, oh, is he going to pitch a complete game shutout? Right. What are we going to do? Let's bring him out for the 9th. And of course, he gives up a hit, and that's it.
Sure. Right, though, just quickly back to the Kershaw thing, only because this Dave Stieb thing talks about that game in when was it?
98?
88, oh, yes, right, yeah. 88 against the Yankees, when he's gone 8 2/3 of an inning, perfect game, and it really does bang home how frickin' rare a perfect game is in baseball. Forget the no-nos. There's a bunch of no-nos, but the perfect game is still incredibly rare.
Yes, it is. But like I had said before, there are guys who have pitched perfect games who you've never heard. Philip Humber pitched a perfect game.
But most perfect game pitchers are in the Hall of Fame. The overwhelming majority, yeah. There was only, at the time Dave Stieb was going for his perfect game, there was only 10, I think. Well,
I know Catfish Hunter threw a perfect game. Sandy Koufax threw a perfect game. Roy Halladay threw a perfect game. So, yeah, okay. You got to be pretty good. Anyway, you know what I liked yesterday is the Jays had 5 left-handed hitters in the lineup. Tapia, Biggio, Collins, Zimmer, and Cateau, his first start. He walks and scores. Like, he's beautiful. I wasn't expecting much from that lineup, but they got the job done. And most importantly, the bullpen, except for Jordan Romano, got a rest. And Romano wasn't at his best. He gave up some hard hit balls, but the defense of Matt Chapman, right there, when Chapman made that play with the infield, that was beautiful. Anyway, the Jays,
though. That 9th inning made you sweat.
Yeah, it was good though. You needed that sweat. Every win shouldn't be an easy 10-length victory. And the Jays are going to need the rest, the pitching staff especially, because they have a game every day from now until Monday, May 9th. You got Houston, you got Boston at home, Houston at home, Yankees at home, Cleveland on the road. So proper rest is important. It's up to Charlie and his staff to ensure that nobody's arm falls off, that the key players get the requisite amount of time off to heal those nagging injuries. And speaking of which, I shudder every time George Springer swings now. Mike, he gets hit by a pitch the other night. Thank God x-rays were negative. The only negative test to come out of Fenway Park all week.
That's right. COVID joke.
And Springer now comes in, as a pinch hitter, I guess, and swings and misses. And on the 3rd strike, he goes down to his knee. And I'm like, what happened? So now I'm twitching now every time because of his injuries last year. And he's, he could be hurt again now. I'm worried about this. And the same with Ryu. Hyunjin Ryu looks like a 45-year-old man out there on the mound. He's got nothing. I'm worried, very concerned about this.
How many times can you get Tommy John? Can you do it over and over and over again?
I don't know. Tommy John should be in the Hall of Fame, by the way. That's a whole other story. Mike, Russians banned from Wimbledon. Okay?
Good.
You're Russian, you don't play at Wimbledon. What do you think about that?
Let's ban him from everything. Listen, this is the fact this is still going on. It's horrible watching the news now. This is a clear, good guy, bad guy situation. This is an invasion by Russians, an illegal invasion in Ukraine. There's several war crimes being committed on the daily. Yeah, we have to do something to let the Russian people know this is unacceptable.
So now you're an NHL team and the draft is coming up this July and there's a Russian that you really want to draft. Do you draft them?
Well, yeah, you can. That's a good question. I say yes. I feel like you have to.
So that's okay.
Well, there's a difference. You don't have to invite Russians to your event, or Belarusians. I hope I said that right. At this time.
Belarusians, yeah, okay.
Okay. Because essentially that's like Russia Junior or whatever.
I care what they're called.
So wait, well, okay.
Beloruskish.
Right.
Who knows?
What say you? Because I know what you're saying. Should Ovechkin be kicked out of the NHL or whatever? It is an interesting conversation, except I think it's different. Inviting a Russian to your big event is different.
Right. Okay, so let's say we replaced Russian with Nazi sympathizer. Because essentially we're looking at the same thing. You're talking about people that are murdering innocent people, right?
I would love to ban
aggressors
Nazi
who are murdering innocent people, right?
Let's
paint them all with the same brush. Let's
Right.
paint them all with the same brush. If you're not doing something about it, if you're not part of the problem, you're part of the solution. Which one is it? So in other words, are these Russian people who would like to, enjoy all the benefits of North American life, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, are they willing to denounce the Russians, give up their Russian citizenship, donate towards the cause of fighting the Russians? Tell me. What should they do? It's a good question. Just thought I'd throw it out there.
Interesting times, but this needs to stop. There are
believe
civilians
me when
in
I tell you,
Ukraine
the
dying on the
NHL
daily.
Yeah, the NHL is not going to say we're not going to draft Russian players. They want to win Stanley Cups. So that's not going to happen. By the way, the NHL is going to have exhibition and regular season games played in Europe next year, in Finland, Czech Republic, Germany, and Switzerland. What, not in Russia? It's called the NHL Global Series because you want to grow the game. You want to grow it. You're not going to grow it in Russia, that's for sure. You're not going to grow it in Russia. All right, before we go, the Leafs, let's see here. Austin Matthews. What is wrong with Austin Matthews? Will they ever tell us what's wrong with Austin Matthews? Will Austin Matthews play another game? What the hell? 3 games in a row, and now the third of which you lose 8-1 to Tampa, the team you're going to probably play in the playoffs. You are going to play. You're going to play Tampa in the playoffs. 8-1. 8-1, and now your goalie, Shalgren, he gets a little rest while the other goalie gets to play the best team in the league, the Florida Panthers, who've won 74 consecutive games. They haven't lost since the year of the small potato. Now your goalie gives up 8. Your other goalie's watching from the bench, and he's going, I get Florida on Saturday. And also last night, you get Kyle Clifford with a match penalty for bopping Corey Perry on the head with a stick, and Wayne Simmons and Pat Maroon given inciting penalties. Never before have I ever heard a referee say 2 minutes for inciting. Ever. But they had that. And not only that, but ESPN has this sideline reporter between the benches. And I don't know the woman's name, okay? It doesn't matter that she's a woman or a man, but the stupidest questions. And let's go down rinkside to whoever she is. And she's going, oh, yeah, Simmons just said this. Maroon said this. Let's get it on. And then later she's interviewing Pat Maroon between periods after him and Simmons had fought. And the questions goes like this. She says, well, Wayne, Pat Maroon says you're soft. Are you? Between periods, intermission, interview, you're soft. He says you're soft.
Are you soft? That's amazing.
That's what she asked. Are you? And he goes, well, why don't you ask him? Like Simmons is listening. Like if I'm Wayne Simmons, I'm going, fuck you. And fuck all of you at ESPN. What kind of between periods interview is this? You're asking me if I think I'm soft? Go fuck yourself.
That's a terrible question.
Terrible question. Honest to God, some of the and ESPN's going, ooh, let's see some fights. Because that's how you're going to draw viewers in the States, right?
Right.
Ooh, let's see some fights. I'm sure all the gun owners are going, yeah, maybe some.
Well, they want slap shot, right? They want slap shot.
That's what they want. So they got a reporter sideline going, let's get it on.
It's like fucking Embiid, right? It's the same spirit.
Really, Dick. Can you imagine Ray Ferraro's between the benches? He's going, yeah, maybe these two guys will scrap. Let's go. Bullshit. It's all bullshit.
It was Hextall. It was Hextall between.
That's what it comes from. Was that who it was?
Yeah. Yeah, that was her.
What the fuck is all that about? Like, why would you Wow. That's twice. Why are these reporters? They're the ones that are inciting. That's inciting to me.
That's you're too in the game at that. You're supposed to be reporting, not making the. You're not supposed to be affecting the happenstance on the ice. You know what I mean? Right, you're too engaged with the game at that point.
Agreed. I thought, and then they're running the clip. They ran the clip of it on SportsCenter on Jay Onright's show, I think it was. And there's and it's part of the clips, and it's like she's going, well, I was just talking to Pat Maroon, and he says that you're soft. Are you?
It's like in the playground.
I just looking. I'm going, can you imagine Sean McKenzie asking that question, or Ferraro, or there's no way. Okay, they would get kicked off television. You don't ask that kind of what. That's just. Are you soft?
That's a Bush League question. That's a cringy Bush League question.
Bush League question. Bush League by ESPN.
Yeah. Fucking Embiid.
Before we go, in tennis, Felix Auger-Aliassime into the quarterfinals on the clay at Barcelona. I watched the match this morning. He beat American Francis Tiafoe 7-5, 6-4. He was down 0-3 in the second set, came back to win the match. And now he's the number 3 seed, Felix, by the way, behind Stefanos Tsitsipas and Casper Ruud. On the distaff side, the comeback woes continue for Bianca Andreescu. She was beaten in 3 sets yesterday in the second round of the Porsche Grand Prix by the number 3 seed, Irina Sabalenka. 6-1, 3-6, 6-2. Bianca not quite up to speed yet when it comes to conditioning. Hasn't played in 6 months, and it shows.
But do you still think she's a flash in the pan, or are we going to give her a shot here at 21 years young?
Well, no, we always give them a shot. Jeannie Bouchard, we always give them a shot. Mike, I will never not root for the Canadiens. Never not root for them. But you've got to admit, it's been a pretty big fall. There have been a lot of impediments. And, when she gets to a semifinal, okay. But as it stands now, the comeback is still a work in progress. I think that's safe to say, wouldn't you?
Absolutely. But Hebsy, I know we're about to play out here. We went long, but
what do you mean we went long? What does that mean?
It means long. I schedule other things at 10:30 is what that means. But because we had the guests come in a bit early, I never asked my one question I want to ask the Raptors. Okay, so the Raptors had an exciting regular season where they exceeded expectations for this team at this time. I
think so.
Rebuilding process. Okay. And that's why I famously said early on, like, I'd rather we, crap the bed here. And I know you don't like that expression, but let's get a lottery pick like Scotty Barnes and build for the future because there's a good young core. Okay, blah, blah, blah. Does a quick and quiet exit from the first round of the playoffs negate, does that at all negate these memories we have of regular season success for this team?
I don't think so. I don't think so. Since the expectations weren't high, right? I think that, even if they lose,
nobody
in the first round,
really
that people are going to go, well, that was a terrible season with a terrible, I'm sure for the players, it's a bitter ending for sure. But I mean, when you think of what they did, especially in the second half of the season, where they went from, are they going to maybe get a play-in spot to they really started playing well against good teams, you could see that potential. Scotty Barnes really came into his own.
Right.
Right? The Peyton trade early on, Gary Peyton Jr. Peyton, what am I saying? Trent. Gary Trent Jr. started playing better. Siakam played great. My concern is, a player like OG Anunoby. He's injured too often. And if he's going to be a key part of this team, he has to stay healthy. And he hasn't.
What do you think of Malachi Flynn? Like, when I see him out there, key parts of a playoff game, I think, oh, yeah, that's right. This team's not very good.
Well, the team is not that deep is what it is. That's what it comes down to.
Just don't shoot.
And look, if your starting center was a player like Joel Embiid, you wouldn't have to worry as much about depth, I guess.
Yeah, not deep.
We don't have that guy. He's a beast. Let's give them credit.
And last point, because I'm glancing at the many comments on your YouTube channel, and people listening to this podcast should be live with us every Friday at 9 a.m. Eastern. Yeah. It's not Eastern for Eugene Velitis because he's in BC, but he just makes a point. So we talked about the terrible question, the cringy question, as VP of Sales here says, about Hextall. Is it Leah? Is that how you say her name?
Yes, I don't know
her. Leah. Okay, so Leah Hextall makes the stupid question about Pat Maroon and Simmons there. And
fucking dumb question.
I think it's a terrible question. And I just want to say, I don't give a rat's ass the gender of the person asking that question. That's a terrible question. Non-binary person asks that question. It's still a terrible question, man, woman. It doesn't matter. Okay, but Eugene Velitis says, but it was okay with Grapes, he puts in question marks. And before you respond to that, I'll just say, Grapes wasn't going to the bench to tell the players during the game what the other player said about them during the game. Grapes might say something at after the first period, but it's very different to me. But what say you, Hebsy man?
Yeah, I say that it's a dumb question. I think that she should be, unless the producer said, come on, stir it up down there, Leah. Let's get going. You're between the fucking benches. This is what the fans want to see. This is our first year of our contract, the new ESPN hockey contract. Come on. We got, big game here. Let's see if we can get a fight going. You're from Philadelphia, right? Your family was from Philadelphia. You know all about the Hextall tradition and fighting in Philadelphia. Let's get it on, Rocky and all that shit, right? It's all fighting. So I guess, and I don't know, but if she thought of this on her own, and I don't think she did, but if she said, I'm going to ask him about, because we had just asked Pat Maroon and he said that Wayne Simmons, is soft. So I'm going to ask Wayne Simmons if he thinks he's soft. If it was premeditated, then fuck, that's even worse. Terrible to come up with that question. Okay. All right. That's it for episode 281 of Hebsy on Sports. Thanks, as always, to Toronto Mike for production and inspiration. Thanks to Scott Allen for executive production of this show. Thanks to our guest, John McLaren.
Yeah, he's great.
Were there enough stories there? And we got to have him back because there's so much more to ask him.
Throughout the BlueJays season, imagine if every week we just had somebody who could tell us about Tony Fernandez and Damaso Garcia.
Jesse Barfield and Lloyd Moseby and Dave Stieb.
That Barfield story was amazing. They went to one game. He had a couple of doubles. What a story.
Off Bill Gullickson.
I know.
Fabulous.
And we took a pass on Dwight Gooden and Who else did we take a pass on? Dwight Gooden. I mean, I couldn't believe it when I heard these. Dwight Gooden.
I know. Great stories. Great. We're gonna have him back for sure. That was fantastic. Thanks to you for allowing us into your headspace. Have a fabulous weekend. We're back with another episode next week when our guest will be CBC Sports senior producer Karen Sebesta. You want to know what goes on in the truck? You want to know what goes on in putting together an Olympic broadcast, a big, huge international broadcast? Well, Karen Sebesta is going to tell us all about it next week. Should be a good one. Until then, so long for now.
Have a great weekend, everybody, on the YouTube channel.
Thank you, everyone. Hope you enjoyed the show. That was a